when you're watching like a Western movie, we know who the hero is because they're wearing the white hat.
Right.
Who wears the white hat in the family? The kids.
Right.
Stop it. Stop fighting.
Yeah.
And those are, and then the challenge comes down to is when we have attorneys who are advocating their clients, but then they're focusing on, it's not on the little petty issues and not, okay, the system of communication, the system of discussing isn't working for either side. We got to come up to a solution. They just want to litigate it, and your client's doing this wrong, and realize that everybody is probably doing things wrong. No parent's perfect.
Sure.
The court says, a lot of judges have said, ones don't marry tens.
Right.
These parents aren't perfect, and they're both parents, moms and dads, are often creating conflict. Otherwise, they wouldn't be having attorneys.
Right.
And
they wouldn't have a divorce.
They wouldn't have a divorce.
Right.
So, and afterwards, someone's being a stickler to something, and they're misinterpreting or the rules, and it's just like, let's just
get the problem resolved.
Find the problem and eliminate the issues of control, because I'm trying to advocate, if mom has final say or dad has final say, the other parent just wants respect.
Right.
You're making this decision. I want to understand why.
Yeah.
Give me the information.
Give me some input. Let me feel like I've got some say, even if you think you have more say.
Great.
At least respect me as the other parent.
And I want to know where you're coming from. You're saying this decision is better. This school is better.
Right.
Great. Tell me what you're basing that on.
Yeah, and don't
share me the information. Yeah. What did you look at? What did you research? Who did you talk to? So I can maybe come to the same conclusion.
And don't power trip, because as much power as you think you have, well, they're going to have the child too.
Right.
So when the child's with them, it's going to be a handoff. You have to just realize, like, you made a child, you've got to work with each other.
And I wish there was some magic solution, some magic legislation that could eliminate this control aspects, but a parent need to have some final decision authority. Sure. Now, sometimes when parents have 50-50, I try to recommend, hey, well, one parent's going to have final say this year, and one parent have final say next year.
Right.
So that neither one can really...
Feels like, right.
Because if you're going to try to pull the power trip this year, next year...
You got to live with me.
Right.
Yeah.
And then that can turn worse, or you give parent A, okay, you have control over medical, and parent B has medical or educational.
Then it becomes like a game.
And then it becomes a game. And
since you wouldn't let me see him on the weekend when my dad was in town, well, I'm going to make you pay for half the medical, even though I don't need it because I got it covered by Medicaid.
Well, that's different because that's laws anyways. But
sure.
I mean, there are custody evaluators that do that. They call it parallel parenting.
Sure.
One parent has one control, the other parent has the other control, and none do you cross because you can't get along.
Right.
And who does that hurt?
So
the kids.
It's kind of the legal equivalency of go to your own rooms.
Go to your room, do time out, and stop fighting.
Right.
But that is such bad parenting.
Yeah.
And it's trying to do that, and it's just the arrogance or ignorance of a parent that has problems. But in their defense, other parents' defense, they're trying to do what's in the best interest of the child as well. They're trying to do what's best and to avoid conflict because, again, divorce is hard. Yeah. And if you're the primary caretaker, the primary residential parent, and the other parent only has minimum time, that few times that the kids are away, it's inconvenient.
Yeah.
It's very convenient. You have to plan around this weekend with dad, this one evening a week. Yeah. It just disrupts their life. Yeah. It does. Yeah. It completely does. And everything is disruptive to a child when they're divorced and they have to go back and forth. You mentioned a while ago about fair. Yeah. People come in and tell me what's not fair. I'm like, it's not. The only thing that's fair is a child lives with mom and dad and they don't fight. Right. Now, if mom and dad are fighting in the home, that's not fair. Yeah. And you have to move on to not fight, and that can be done. But nothing's fair in a divorce. And recognizing that you're not going to see your kids, you're not going to have enough money, you're going to have some frustrations. That's the reality, and is getting both parents on that thing.
Yeah, my own child would say sometimes to me, the whole going back and forth because they kind of get used to one spot and then they have to go to the other spot, and so that is I'm sure pretty frustrating for a child to have to go through, because at the same time they miss the other parent, they want to be around the other parent, but then they're going to miss their other home, they're going to miss, and so there'd be times where, you know, my son would say to me stuff like, you know, talking about how, well, you know, I have my one parent here, my other parent there, and I would just kind of have to took in what he said, and then I would say, okay, well, everything in life is kind of how you respond to it, right? But the reaction, you've got, it's called a reaction because something happens, then you react to it. And I said, so everything is kind of perception in life. I mean, even though you're going through something that's horrible, it doesn't have to be horrible because you can decide that it isn't horrible. And so I told him, you know, you've got 2 bikes, you've got 2 houses, you've got 2 of everything. That's the upside of divorce. There's some downsides, sure. You get yanked around, or you know, you miss your friends at the other home, but the upside is 2 bikes, you know, 2 homes, 2 beds, you've got double of everything, and maybe even, you know, brothers on one side, sisters on the other side. So there's a way, you know, that they can stay happy.
It's
but
fine
you
that
gotta just, you know, the parents do. It's so important that the parents and the kids all realize, hey, this is what's happened. We're gonna make the best of this. We're not gonna keep fighting. We're not gonna have the courts decide our lives. That's one thing I've always said is, you know, these judges, as wise and as smart as they are never going to know what's better for my child than me or my you know, ex-spouse, because we know that child better than anybody on the planet.
Oh,
unless it's something, you know, obviously, you know, you don't feed lead chips to a child.
Correct.
You can kill them, stuff like that. But, you know.
Yeah, they're always saying
Sure.
parents can make, we want the parents to make better decisions.
Sure.
Now, if they can't, they'll have to decide, but it's hard for them to decide between, again, ones that marry 10s. Now, if it's between 2 good parents,
Sure.
it's hard.
Sure.
And when it's between 2 bad parents, it's hard, but then the option is we're going to take the kids away and give them to the state.
Yeah.
But when one parent's great, one parent's horrible, that's easy.
Sure.
But that's not the case,
Right,
even
all
though
the time, right.
even though one parent thinks they're great
Sure.
and the other parent's bad.
Sure.
That's a rarity when
Sure.
both parents have challenges. But again,
Yeah.
as you're mentioning, talking to your son, it's trying to find a way to make them feel comfortable in the situation is best, and without involving them in the litigation. Just got to keep them. You're loved by everywhere you go, and it's hard. But recognizing it is hard, we understand that,
Yeah.
and we have to try to do what's best. And then the kids, again, they're going to tell you what you want to hear, and they're going to tell mom what they want to hear. She wants to hear, which even though that may be hurting the other parents, and that creates, and because they're trying to do what's best in their little bodies, and they can't understand their perspective, and they're trying to create peace, and that means they're saying what they want to hear. And
Sure.
and
We
that's
talked
difficult.
a little bit off camera about some of the things that I thought, you know, felt like a bias to me when I went through my divorce. Where, for example, there would just kind of be an assumption that mom had the child when I had the child, stuff like that. And I'm not trying to say that all judges are, you know, expected to be imperfect and superhuman, but that's kind of what people expect, is that they know everything, and then they're going to ask all the questions even when it might not be obvious that the question even needs to be asked. So stuff like that. So I mean, I think the more I interact with the court system, sure, are there things that still frustrate me? Sure, you know, but are there people that I talk to and I go, this person's really a person, or commissioners that I might sit in front of and think, this guy's really sharp. He really does care. He seems like an honest guy. You know, I mean, I can't imagine what it would be like. Just like as police officers see, they just see horrible, horrible things. You know, they'll see accidents, they'll see death, so of course they're gonna be affected by that stuff.
Well, as commissioners, we mentioned before, they're hearing 10, 15 cases a day,
right.
and all they hear is high conflict.
Sure.
It's all they hear.
And the complaints
so
and the complaints.
you have to realize they're becoming desensitized
Yeah,
to these accusations.
Sure.
They're going to hear it. It's the same accusation that I heard
Yeah.
an hour ago,
Yeah.
a minute ago. And it's going to roll off because they have to do that.
Right.
And as attorneys, we have to kind of the same time thing. We have to understand your situation,
Right.
but we have to. This is the outcome. We have to get you there, and don't often dwell upon the little minor things
Right.
that people have blown up.
Sure.
You have to focus on the end game all time. Your end game is
the goal.
is the goal,
Yeah.
and your end game shouldn't be I want sole custody.
Right. Just
No,
because.
just
yeah.
because.
Right.
Say I represent a dad and the mom has challenges.
Sure.
Okay, we understand, but the goal is
Right.
get the kid safe, get mom some help,
and get along.
Gosh darn and when she's ready to have, if she's better, and the kids can do it, it's work out some time because they need mom. They need mom just as much as they need dad, or vice versa. The end game is to get them what they need to be. And too often I represent kids as a guardian, and the kids want to try something different. They want to flip. They've lived with mom for a long time. Now we want to go to dad. It's expected. 13 years old, they want to try something different. Maybe they're not getting along with mom because they're going through teenage stuff, or stepdad,
or maybe dad will make them work hard for a long time and then let them relax for a long time, and mom wants it kind of intermittent
or something, or dad's been a lot more lenient because he's had minimum time, and so he's more Disneyland dad. So they want to try that, and they do it, and we go through this litigation, fight it out, and the court say, the kid's old enough to decide, just try that. But then a year later, they realize the grass isn't greener on the other side, and they'll go back, and it's just
there's issues over there,
and then they fight over that, and the kids are just held up in this limbo, and we got to find a way just to, again, create some peace and not be so strict to all these different things. But it's just a hard system we're in because we have to follow the law. We can't just
it's a tough job.
Bounce around little kids. We can't ping pong with the kids because that's not good. And we're dealing with emotion. And we're dealing with people's lives, their kids. So again, when I represent these parents, I'm trying to focus on that aspect. And it's hard because sometimes that's not what they are wanting, and they're wanting to fight. They're wanting to screw the other side. They want to say she deserves
vengeance.
They want vengeance. They want her to be proved that she's
wrong. With the court, and so
they want that justice. They think, and I'm focusing on resolution. Is that going to be best for your kids? Is that going to create peace? Is that going to create resolution? Is that going to solve the problem? And sometimes that doesn't seem eye to eye when that's my end game, and that's not their end game, and so then they want a bulldog attorney, and I'm like, I'll advocate for you, but I'm going to do it in the right way because you come in looking like this aggressive jerk, and the courts know it, and they're going to hold it against you.
Even if you are legitimately, found in where you're coming from, it's going to come off the wrong way if you go in there like a bull in a china shop, getting all mad, trying to tear things up. You have to. It's all in presentation. You have to.
As soon as the court hears high conflict, they shut off now. You got to stop fighting. And I've heard
we're going to continue this for three more months until you guys can calm down.
Judges, commissioners will stop that yelling and stop it, and they will get it mad and say. And so you got to present the way that shows that you're frustrated with the situation. This is your ultimate goal. This is a resolution to create peace and not just get vengeance, because it doesn't, fine, you found her in contempt. What's that going to mean? Nothing.
How did your kids benefit? How do you, in 10 years, are you a better person? What does this do for you, really?
The court may do something. The first contempt, they're not, denial of parent time, they're going to give you makeup parent time. It's not going to be the third or fourth time.
Well, that's not even a guarantee. Sometimes they won't give you the makeup time. Because the commissioner the other day said, we don't want to do the makeup time because it would disrupt the children. And so you're like, whoa, but that's kind of a legitimate thing. You don't want to disrupt what's going on and disrupt their lives just to get that extra time. But, at the same time, you're like, well, I got cheated, I got robbed. So, I mean, you never know.
You never know.
Right.
And they think, I'm going to get my custody through contempt. Now, does the rules allow it? Possibly that's something the court can do, but it's not going to be on the first contempt. It's going to be on their fifth or sixth time they deny parent time. Finally, they're going to say, okay, you're not doing this. It's going to flip. But that's not what they want to do. They don't. And so again, we got to find an end game. We got to find the happy medium of communication, but not too much. Parent time. That's going to be the right amount for both parents.
Equal and good for the kid.
Whether it's equal or not, whatever is going to be best for the kids at their age and what they need and what's going to work for them. We got to create a peaceful solution, and that's why I advocate. That's what I'm trying to do as an attorney is to focus on that and convince parents, dads. Well, there isn't always a actual bias in the system. These are the factors. I'm going to go through it and list them. Some are going to favor you, some are going to favor mom. But this is what they have. And if you want different factors, well, tell the legislation to change them.
Sure.
Or let's get a case that can change, add some more.
Right.
That's what's going to happen. This is what they have. And some of those favor you, some of those favor mom, because of the reality that you created.
Mm-hmm.
And then is trying to convince mothers that dad isn't a bad guy.
Right.